and I'm going to hit the button to go live over here.
Cool.
Cool.
Oh, man, this mouse is so slow.
I think we're live.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know.
Gordon,
I have no idea.
how you doing this morning? You seem a little tired.
Yeah, everybody's tired. Dinner, bar, stayed up watching YouTube last night.
Wait, you went to the bar last night?
I went out to a bar afterwards.
Oh,
Gordon's a party
nice,
animal.
right? Man, I mean, I know that around
I shook
CES
all these
time.
losers. I mean, after the dinner, the staff dinner, I went out. No.
How
It's just-
rude.
Excuse me.
So we have a kind of a different kind of episode today because there's not a ton of news, right?
I think it's still pretty worthwhile. We're going to talk about Comet Lake, 10th gen Comet Lake. We're going to talk about Jensen said what, basically.
He said what?
Yeah, which I love. I mean, that's the best thing about Jensen, right? I mean, he says things that get people upset about. Sometimes unfairly, people get upset about stuff, and sometimes it's probably okay for people. I mean, it's probably somewhat justified. But this one's an interesting one. I really do want to hear about that.
And actually, especially after I'll wait till the meet. Yeah.
And then a $500 build off.
Yeah.
Which
And-
when did we do that? I didn't look back on the episodes
I was
list.
told that it was episode 8.
I already won, is what I know.
Yeah.
You didn't win.
I already won.
You didn't win.
Episode 8. Wow, that was a long time ago. We're almost at 108. Or episode
What?
103, just so you know.
Oh, I was going. Oh, because I
Wow.
wrote 103.
I
I
mean,
got confused.
we're almost there.
103, 108.
I would
What's
say-
my temperature, doctor? I don't know. 108, 103. If you were 108, you would actually be dead because you would have boiled. But it could be 103.
You're always talking about doctors and their measurement practices.
Yeah. And just all right. We're gonna kick this off because we have a hard stop because we have a staff meeting.
Yes,
And unless we want our boss to come in here and actually shut us down,
we don't.
we don't want to do that.
I mean, he
So
could
we
be
got a
in the
hard
chat
stop.
right now.
And there's a lot in this build off I'm very excited for, even though I think I spent 10 minutes on it. But I'm still excited for it.
All right, cool. Are you ready to do the
Yeah, we ready? We can do
the
this?
intro? Yeah. I am ready whenever you are.
Yeah, ready?
Yep.
Okay. In this episode of The Full Nerd, didn't even pronounce it right. In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel heard you like... I'm trying to... How did I say that? In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel heard you like 10th gen, so they put 10th gen in your 10th gen. Jensen said, what? And $500 build-off, which I've already won.
No way.
Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 103. I'm your host, Gordon Maung, with Elena Yee.
Oh, hi. I go first. That's weird.
I know, that's why I was trying to figure the order out. Because Adam is on the right here.
Yeah,
That's
here
why
I
I'm
am.
so
worked her up.
confused.
I'm at the table.
Everything
Murray.
is out of order.
Yeah, there's no TV screen here to block me. Usually, I'm sitting behind.
So-
the little known fact, I'm usually just sitting behind the
He's
TV.
in the van.
But
He's
nobody's
in the van.
Okay, yeah. That's true.
So this is like a train that the conductor has come back to the dining car to like eat some food, and you're like, who's driving the train?
Who is driving the train?
I don't know.
I don't know. That is a good question.
Are we
Are
just
you
going off the
driving the
rails
train, or is
now?
it just simply going like there's a cow on the tracks right now?
No, we have
That's what the
a
cow
special.
catcher's for.
We have a special producer that's filling in for the verticals and the horizontals. Say hi, special producer.
Hello. Hey, Gordon, I have a question for you.
Oh,
There he
you go.
is.
Hey,
Look at that.
Gordon, I got a question for you. Did you bring your A game? Because I flew across the country to kick your ass in this
I already
$500
won.
PC battle.
I already won. I already won.
Dang. Wait, but hold on. Why is Brad back there in my spot?
I don't know.
Because
I mean, we know.
gotta show you how to do the
Because
glasses
Brad
right.
is here in the studio. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, I thought that was a
Yeah.
remote location.
No,
So
that's not a
are you
remote
gonna
location.
Are you going to prove that Brad actually exists?
I'm going to prove that Brad actually exists here in the studio. Let's switch it out.
Oh.
I wonder if they could do like that digital effect where you know how they make all the actors look young. They
That new.
They
yeah,
would
that new
just
thing.
they would just make nerdy ass people look nerdier.
What would be the defining feature for that?
It could work. I can imagine.
Do we
like,
all just get the Twitch glasses?
And Brad's
forgot about
here. No, just keep going, man.
I'll put them on when I win the budget battle. That'll be my final.
There you
last
go.
Oh.
Yeah, already done.
Brad
There
live
you are.
in the house.
Oh, you know, I should
This is a
pull up-
special treat. We only get this about once a year, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, man, I tell you what, it is weird sitting over there. I'm so used to my battle station here, you know.
That's nice.
Sitting over there.
I was sitting there admiring. How do you even keep track of the show? I was just distracted by all the blinking lights.
That is a good question. Yes, lot to keep up with. So yeah, I think first up we're going to talk about some Comet Lake.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on with that, Gordon?
Yeah.
That's the
let's-
crazy thing. First off, all the desktop people, this is still laptop only. Yeah, no, we're not seeing 10th generation parts from Intel yet. So everything that came out this week, and of course, earlier I said Intel heard you like 10th gen, so they added 10th gen to your 10th gen. They did that. A couple weeks ago, they came out with their actual 10 nanometer 10th gen, which kind of makes sense, right? And then yesterday, they unveiled the 10th gen Comet Lake. So we have 10 nanometer 10th gen Ice Lake, and then we have 10th generation 14 nanometer Comet Lake.
So just like they started with 9th gen, 10th gen doesn't mean anything. It's just
Yeah, it hasn't meant anything. It feels like for 3 or 4 generations. It just kind of like, oh, we'll just it used to, for people who don't know, it used to. I asked years ago and said, oh, it's basically based on the actual graphics iteration. That was the definition several years ago when Clarkdale Arendelle came out. So
yeah. Remember, you actually did an article on it, and then the very next year is when they just started chucking everything in the pot.
yeah, then it came out to like, oh, with Skylake, or it was like, oh, it's a new generation, but oh no, KB Lake. It was it's like, well, KB Lake seems pretty much the same cores as Skylake, but like, oh, it's actually different because it has the new media encoding engine in this. So the graphics engine is the same. The cores are essentially the same. It is a new transistor that hits higher clock speeds, which is a plus. So that's how it got the plus, actually.
Plus,
It's
plus, plus.
But how is that a new generation when and of course now Comet Lake, a lot of people are cynically saying, oh, this is just Whiskey Lake U plus. You know, this is just what we've already seen already in laptops, ultrabooks like these.
Not mine.
Not that one. That is an H part. So
I'm the gaming editor, so
there's of course, the internet. That's what actually surprised me, because the internet lost its mind. Well, the tech media lost its mind, a week ago when Ice Lake came out, supposedly. Like, oh, Intel's naming scheme is terrible. It's like, what are you talking about? It won't get terrible till Comet Lake comes out, and we now have it. So, for an example,
I mean, it doesn't have to be a binary. It wasn't terrible, then it is terrible. There could be a descent into terribleness.
no, but I mean, it wasn't like I people like, oh, if you went from a Core i7 8565U to now a Core i7 1065 G7.
what?
I mean, that's not really. I'm not really that thrown off by that, because 10 generation 10. It's still a 65 part, because it's basically, their highest end Ice Lake part, and then G7 meaning Iris Graphics, best graphics, right?
The article that Mark wrote about it yesterday, just for people who are listening in, they actually made a really nice graphic that breaks it all down, because hearing that, I'm very confused.
Really?
It breaks it all. I haven't read up on this much. I'm just like, that's a mouthful.
I mean, that's the problem, right? For us, for the people who actually pay attention to every single SKU, then you actually know 8565U is a Whiskey Lake. So.
Right.
But no, so here's the thing that is got people radioactive yesterday is the new quad core Comet Lake is a Core i7 10510U, which is like, what? I mean, really, that's the one. See, that makes no sense. So you have a 4-number Ice Lake, and then you have a 5-number Comet Lake.
Have they explained what the naming scheme's all about?
They basically, I think they're stuck with the hand that they got dealt, which is they got these Ice Lake parts, they have these Comet Lake parts.
Wait. They didn't get dealt this. They're the ones dealing with parts.
Yeah.
No, because I think people have this. One thing I think people should dismiss immediately is like, oh, Comet Lake's just Whiskey Lake, but this is a significant increase in core count. So the top end, I didn't mention this, the top end Comet Lake is a Core i7 10710U, which is a 6-core Comet Lake CPU.
Right, but what I'm saying is that I'm not talking about the process behind
Oh.
this. Like however long it's taking is however long it's taking. That's a different conversation. What I'm saying is that this numbering scheme and people trying to stay on top of it, they're the ones dealing the cards on that. They didn't have to
Branding.
choose the system.
No, I guess what I'm saying is they're stuck because they basically have two different process CPUs
Right.
being introduced at the same time.
Right.
They're very different. Ice Lake, brand new Sunny Cove cores, all kinds of goodness. Comet Lake is essentially a next gen iteration of 14 nanometer parts with more cores.
I wrapped my head around it going through this list that you have on your article.
Yeah,
Ice Lake has a G in the name.
Ice Lake has a G, and U and Y's are in Comet Lake. And the big thing, if you want to be a hater on Comet Lake, which is unfair, I think, because there is a 6-core part in basically an Ultrabook like this. Like, you can get it into what supposedly it should fit into previous size laptops. Like, I think Dell has announced an XPS 13 with a 7-core or 6-core Comet Lake in it. And then the other big news too is for the Y parts, for those Core M class parts, you're getting now quad cores. Previously, all low power Y parts, Amber Lake, all those kind of Core M class CPUs, they were always dual cores. Intel is now offering 3 Comet Lake quad core Y parts that are like 4.5 and 5.5 TDP at the low end and 7
Wow.
watts typically.
That's very low wattage.
So, it's really, of course, if you were Intel, they're going to say, hey, we're offering you a great choice. You could have the awesome graphics capability and the AI and all the new instructions of Ice Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want more core count and higher clocks, then you could go for Comet Lake. It is confusing.
Yeah.
When the reason why I'm saying it's the hand they're dealt is because, they have not said why. Most people would say, why the hell did you even make Comet Lake, right? Let's just do Ice Lake. You should, but I'm going to guess they don't have enough Ice Lake.
Yep.
So they have to have sort of backfill with these 14 nanometer parts. Or the other thing is like they sort of started this like, look, our 10 nanometer process it's in a shambles, right? We don't know if we're gonna come out in Q3 2019 with actual 10 nanometer parts.
Yep.
We need to plan to have something. Let's do a 6-core part. So they keep moving along, keep moving along. Like, hey, look, we actually have 10 nanometer. It's working. We're going to do it. But it also coincides with their 6-core Comet Lake sort of setup. And
It also looks like looking at this chart that you made, Comet Lake on 14 nanometer process has much higher turbo speeds.
Yeah, definitely higher turbo speeds, and that's why I think the very top end i7 Comet Lakes are probably going to be slightly faster in single core and probably even multi-core. Well, definitely on the 6-core part than the Ice Lake part. So I think they're going to be very close. It'll depend on the laptops they go into, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I think ultimately we'll have to see how this shakes out when the designs laptops come out with them because.
Yep.
I was really confused. Like, how do these seem like very parts that just sort of just clash with each other? I know you're competing with yourself now at like practically the same performance, except for graphics. And I do think what we're seeing now is that like the XPS 2-in-1 premium laptop,
Yep.
Right.
LPDDR4X, that's getting an Ice Lake. The XPS 1390 or 9380, whatever it is, the latest iteration of it. So the traditional clamshell, that's going to get 6-core Comet Lake. So I think sort of the
interesting.
2-in-1 is slightly. It's almost like the Ice Lakes are going into
The
laptops
Halo
that
products.
might have Halo, but also might have also been like low power parts, almost like. And the big win for Intel, as far as what they're able to do, is Dell's able to get a quad core laptop with Iris graphics, way better Iris graphics than ever before, into basically a 2-in-1. That laptop previously, although this is a totally new design, previously that same form factor got basically a Core M. So it seems like they're able to smash more performance into a thinner and smaller laptop.
Gordon, I have a question from Twitch. Friend of the show, Ruru2, was asking about the naming scheme. Do you think they're going forward? They're going to do like a big jump to like a 20,000 series, kind of like how NVIDIA went from 10 to, or from 1,000 to 2,000?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean,
I think if they were going to, they would have done it now to avoid this crazy mismatch.
yeah, but they sort of have to have them at the same time. It feels, I don't know. And then, of course, I've seen these leaked, reports of, Comet Lake desktop parts. And then I think there'll be an H part, but it was like something like, it looked like it was like one more digit. It was like 100,000 or something. It was like, maybe the headline, it's just like, I don't know how they use the numbers. The numbers are sort of,
Yeah.
they're a mess. But at the same time, in laptops, they really don't mean that much anyway. I mean, that's sort of the one thing that people don't really get is unlike a desktop where you have control over everything, the performance of a Core i7-1 laptop could be as bad as another laptop with Core i5.
I don't disagree. Just so you know, why I'm laughing is that from a consumer perspective, I feel like all of this just makes it so much harder as even a regular nerd, so to speak, just to walk in to a store and figure out what it is you want to buy. And even between like laptop models, right? So is this, Inspiron going to perform the same way as you would expect from previous generations? What's it going to be like in comparison to the XPS line? You would assume between i5 and i7 models within the same model type, it would be similar for the cooling. But even then, like if that's a 6-core and that's a 4-core, what can you expect from that? It just makes it so complicated, and you're gonna have to like find specific reviews on these models. And given how small most media outlets are now, whether it's YouTube or actual former traditional publishers, it's gonna be hard to actually get that intel data.
It is difficult to get it, and actually, that's why I sat down. If you go, there's actually still, I think it's still somewhere on the front page or somewhere. But if you, I did a story where
I linked it in the comments.
Okay, I looked at all the Ice Lake and Comet Lake parts, and then
and we did a video on it.
We did a video on it on YouTube, somewhere down here, over on the left side, I think. I actually went through and sort of graded each of the CPUs on their attributes, which are just for the CPUs versus sort of themselves and previous laptop generations. What I'm recommending generally is sort of my forecast. These aren't set necessarily in stone, but I think if you go by the chart, it definitely helps clarify things, because it really took me probably and I understand the anger, because when I first heard Comet Lake numbering scheme next to Ice Lake, I was like, I flipped out, because you're like, because the natural reaction is, this is insane, right? But I'd heard it under NDA, so I didn't.
You had time to.
I had time to absorb it, and I realized, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't help anybody to get all angry and go on their Twitter and tell people about. It's actually better just to like, here's what matters. Here's what's good. They're actually very good parts. And the thing that gets lost in all this, these are very good parts. You're getting a 6-core, and I haven't seen them yet, but come on, it's Whiskey Lake U with 2 more cores, right? Mm-hmm. If you cool it well enough, it's going to be fast with 6 cores. Decently fast for what it is. It's not going to be an H-class laptop, but it's going to be... I mean, hell, it's crazy. Like, we were like, this is a dual-core KB Lake laptop. KB Lake U. It's like, 3 years old? 3 years ago, we had 2 cores. Mm-hmm. We've had 4 cores in Ultrabooks for, a couple years now, and then now... we're going to 6 cores. But this is a good one.
It's way too bad that all this branding confusion is kind of taken away from it, because these do all sound like awesome parts.
Yeah.
And you got to explain it. Like, whenever my family members ask me for buying advice, I try to distill it down to, all right, go to Best Buy, play with the laptops, find one that feels good, because that's important.
Yep.
Just make sure it's 9th gen Core i3.
Yeah.
But you can't do that anymore. You got 9th gen, Core i3. If you want a small, make sure there's a G somewhere in the name. And if you maybe want to, stream videos or something, you're going to want to make sure the number after the G is as big as you can make it. And
a U, I guess, probably. Or you get an H-class laptop. But although, you know what, I also realize the interesting thing that is I'm really waiting. At some point, somebody's going to realize that, because I always hear this, what about AMD? What about AMD? Well, AMD parts in laptops, quad cores, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe, and they're generally big. You're not seeing them in 2.5 pound.
Yep. And you're not seeing many of them.
And you're not seeing a lot of them. But Intel fanboys and girls can say, we have the core leadership. It's all about core counts, right? You need more cores. We got that with our Comet Lake. You got 6 cores. Your AMD, you only got 4 cores.
Mm-hmm.
What does an AMD fanboy and girl say to that?
I don't think there are very many AMD laptop fans.
I know. Well, no, but I mean, here's the thing. Because on desktop, it's like AMD's all about like, we got core count. You don't want to go lower cores with that 9900K. That's only got 8 cores, right? And of course, Intel on desktop is like, what do you need 12 and 16 cores in a consumer desktop for? 8 cores at high clock is way better. It's like, how do these... Aren't they like really at odds in sort of the form yelling match?
Different applications, Gordon.
I think it's I don't know, because I don't see how you can argue that more cores is better on desktop.
No, it's good on the laptop too.
And then flip flop and say on a laptop that you want fewer cores. It's just right. It's just enough cores.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's way too bad that the branding is taken away from this, because these look like awesome parts.
Oh yeah.
It's a
I mean,
shame that every conversation that introduces it is going to have to be, okay, here's how you got to figure out what's actually in here before you can get to the, okay, sweet, we got 6 cores now.
I don't. Yeah, I know. I'm really interested to see how that 6-core part does too, because I will say on the 8-core H parts, 9th gen, you put that 8-core into a really thin, very light, limited thermal situation and power situation, it's going to lose pretty easily to a bigger, thicker laptop. But you put that thing in a big, thick laptop, and it's screaming along really well. So it's if a laptop builder puts that premium CPU into a laptop, that probably isn't going to be able to handle the cooling of it. It's gonna nerf the clock speed so badly that.
Do you have something specific in mind? Because I feel like you do.
No, I don't yet. I'm just kind of wondering. One thing I was kind of concerned was like, are we going to see these 6-core laptops, 6-core Comet Lakes in, the laptops we're seeing now? Because I hadn't seen any, and actually at IFA they did announce them. And then the guidance from Intel is like, yeah, it's no big deal. It should just slot into.
Did you mean IFA?
IFA? Is it IFA or
It's
IFA?
IFA.
Well, it's because it's based on the German pronunciation of the letters. It's IFA.
That's cool. I don't remember seeing a German flag flying outside the building. So I think it's
held
IFA.
in, was it Berlin? So
Yeah, but we're talking about it from here. So it's IFA.
Just in case, people were confused what he meant.
Oh, because if we're talking about an event in Germany, we should automatically convert it to Celsius.
I'm sure. So I'm sure that instead of saying the
End user
USA,
type zone?
when they refer to us, they always just say USA.
Of course they do. They don't try to pronounce it our way. We're like, whatever. I don't
They all
begrudge them
speak
that.
English now, Gordon.
Does it matter? I don't.
They all speak English now.
Well, speaking of Germany, there's something else going on in Germany, or maybe it's over.
I'm not sure.
I think it's still on.
Yeah, I
I think
think
it's like the
tail
last
end.
day.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about some hot Jensen news?
Oh, I need
and
to-
Gamescom coverage.
Fresh
right?
out of Cologne.
You mean to kick it off?
Yeah, do it.
Or you-
what
well,
happened?
actually,
What
I
happened
don't
with
actually
Jensen?
know really what got said, so yeah.
So there was an investor call webcast, and hey, by the way, apparently NVIDIA, although they missed the forecast, they still crushed it, apparently. So, but there was a question from an analyst, and let me increase the screen size because I just can't read this. I am quoting from overclock3d.net, a story NVIDIA CEO calls it crazy, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to give that away. By Mark Campbell, because here's what he says, full quote, Jensen essentially said, at this point, it's a foregone conclusion that if you're going to buy a new graphics card, it's going to last you 2, 3, 4 years, and not to have ray tracing is just crazy. I will read that again. At this point, it's a foregone conclusion that if you're going to buy a new graphics card, it's going to last you 2, 3, 4 years, and to not have ray tracing is just crazy.
But I mean, he kind of has to say that. He's the CEO. Of
I like the
NVIDIA.
foregone conclusion bit the most, actually, out of all of it. But yeah, CEO of company that sells ray tracing graphics cards says you're crazy not to buy ray tracing.
I mean, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, people like, oh, that's
But-
crazy.
But that's what I love about a Jensen. You never
Yeah,
would
I know.
hear that out of anybody else.
Yeah, he'll tell you what's up. You know what? And I don't think. Yeah, I know you're saying that's what he has to say. He's not.
I'm not saying he has to say that. I think that if you're the head of a company that is pushing ray tracing, you are literally going to think this way. Because otherwise, why would you put that technology in your cards?
All right, that's fair. He does believe in it, is what I'm saying.
It does seem to be picking up steam finally. When it launched, no games were ray traced at launch. That was kind of crazy to me. That was the crazy bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, at Gamescom this week, they announced Minecraft is getting ray tracing. The Windows 10 edition, not the Java edition, which is kind of lame.
Oh.
But yeah, and it looks pretty awesome in the video that they showed. Like, it's Minecraft, the biggest game in the world, is getting ray tracing. You know, all these huge games series are getting it. Doom's going to be getting it. Cyberpunk's going to be getting it. Wolfenstein's getting it soon. Control from Remedy comes out next week, and that's going to be the first game to have several different kinds of ray tracing in it all at once. So it seems like it's picking up steam. The next-gen consoles are also going to have ray tracing support in some way. They're from AMD, so who knows what it's actually going to be. I wouldn't call anybody crazy for picking up like a Radeon RX 5700 XT over 2060 Super because it's still all future promises at this point. It does seem to be materializing, but look at DirectX 12. We still don't see, we're only just now starting to see DirectX 12 games that are starting to be more common, and you got to remember it was like 5 years ago, something like that.
2014.
And at the time, AMD was like, "Hey, we got async compute is going to be a big deal in DirectX 12 games." And if you bought into that promise for the future, then it's paying off 5 years later. But you probably already have a new card.
And Isaac in the YouTube chat says, "So wait, did Jensen just say you'd be crazy to buy a 1660 Ti?"
Yeah, and that is, of course, that's the one thing people are like.
I mean, they're still selling parts without ray tracing in it.
I think if I know that everybody's that's what also triggers people because they will say, "Oh, well, does that mean you shouldn't be selling those?" I think. NVIDIA doesn't kill. They're going to sell you what you want to sell. But if you were NVIDIA, they're like, yeah, you're crazy. You should buy a 2070 Super, right? That'd be their attitude, right? Then why would you buy a 16? What 1660 Ti is?
Is that like 180, 200?
That's 280-ish.
280-ish. I mean,
it might be a little bit less now because the RTX 2060s, you can find them on sale for under $300 sometimes these days.
Yeah, but I do agree though. Nobody buys a graphics card to replace it in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
most people are going to run them. I mean, to replace it in 1 year. Most people are going to run them multiple years. 4 years probably very very average, very normal. 4 year run for a graphics card. If you're going out and you're looking at buying a new card at a certain price range, $500. Wouldn't you? I mean, I would feel like, I would think ray tracing is really going to weigh on to that because I think Call of Duty also announced, right?
Call of Duty, Doom's going to be getting it, Wolfenstein's going to be getting it. Like a bunch of the big shooter kind of first-person games are going to be getting it,
right?
Which always drives graphics change in this industry because they're the cutting-edge blockbuster games.
Right.
That being said, I mean, the Radeon RX 5700 XT is $100 cheaper than the 2070 Super, and it gets real close to it in traditional performance.
Right.
So,
but
$100 is $100.
But then I don't get ray tracing. So
That's
if
true.
I want to play Minecraft with ray tracing, and it does look really good, right?
It actually does. And I'll also say, Control is definitely one of the first examples, kind of like Metro, where it's just like, I'm a little envious that I don't have an RTX card at home. Like
it'll look, the screenshots you've seen of it look good.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see some of these games finally come out that I'm personally attached to. That I'm like, okay, this I could see it, but also I'm not made of money, so I don't have the money yet to plop down on an RTX card.
But if we gave you $550, Adam, are you going to go non-ray tracing or ray tracing?
But you gave him that money.
Yeah.
$400 because there is no $550 AMD card. If you have $400, you can get a 2060 Super or you can get a Radeon 5700 XT.
No, because what it is we gave him $550, and he could either buy.
He likes his scenario.
He could buy an
He
XT
does.
and a 1 terabyte SSD.
Mm-hmm.
So what's? I mean, so is it? I
already have an SSD, so
it feels like if I don't know, but if it really feels to me like certainly at the launch there was no momentum The momentum
does seem to be picking up.
Feels like the momentum is actually
yeah.
here now, so it does feel like that really should be.
Well, and
biggest decision.
NVIDIA is definitely contributing to that momentum. I also find it interesting that who is it that develops Minecraft?
Mojang.
Mojang, yeah. They they had come out a couple weeks ago saying, "Hey, we're not going to do our big graphics overhaul that they had promised whatever years ago." And then they're like, "Oh, well, but we are bringing ray tracing," and that's probably not them, right? That's probably NVIDIA coming in to help them out.
It's pretty cool. If you watch the video that they released with it, they didn't say it anywhere in their releases. But in the video, one of the producers on Minecraft says, this actually worked out pretty great because we could just focus on the game, and NVIDIA did all that crap and made it look pretty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I mean, the NVIDIA's having to do a lot of work up front, which companies do
Yeah, they all
or
do
feel
that.
free to do.
The
right?
one, most of them do actually do that.
I find
so.
Minecraft to be particularly interesting. Unfortunately, it's not coming until 2020 because that
Oh.
totally changes the look of the game.
It really
Up
does.
until this point, of the games that are out there, like the reflections are nice in Battlefield, the shadows look all right in Tomb Raider. It's really only Metro Exodus's Global Illumination that you look at that game and go, wow, like that's
different
why I
game.
want ray tracing.
Yeah, it's a different game.
But Minecraft is pretty amazing with it.
Minecraft, the video that they put out looks like a totally different game, and I'm very intrigued to try it.
Yeah, that and the videos of Control, and I mean,
Yeah.
there's a list of stuff now. I mean, and most of the stuff they showed off at Gamescom, like
I think Cyberpunk is probably going to be pretty
Cyberpunk.
awesome with it.
I mean,
with the neon.
I was
city.
already excited about Cyberpunk, so you don't need to get me there. But it's to add those extra things in. I mean, they know where to put their money, right?
Yep.
I mean, Minecraft is huge.
But what I'm saying is, would you feel like sitting here in 24 months and all these games are out and all this stuff is out? Would you feel like,
I think it
just
depends
wanna
what
be able to
kind of
turn that on?
upgrade cycle you're on, right? I
Yeah.
think the 2-year, 3-year, and 4-year cycle people are actually different types of gamers and hardware builders or PC builders, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're a 2-year type cycle person, you're not going to care because in 2 years it's going to be populated out, you're going to upgrade, and you'll be fine going with something that doesn't have ray tracing. Now, if you're a 4-year type person, then maybe you would want to consider putting a little more money up front so that over the long haul, you don't feel like you're missing out. But that's going to be a very personal decision.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to point out that there are people in the chat who are saying, "Hey, you can do ray tracing and things like Minecraft on an AMD card." It's like it's possible.
It's
you
true.
You can do it.
Yeah.
like,
and
NVIDIA, I think, is very smart because they got in on this on the ground floor and they've associated RTX with the ray tracing. That's not true. I mean, RTX is its own separate platform, like DLSS is RTX. It's their
Right.
technology, the proprietary stack. Actual ray tracing is built on Windows 10's DirectX ray tracing API, and Mojang actually went out of the way to say, hey, this is being built with DXR, so any future GPUs that support ray tracing will also be running this.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same for theoretically, I guess. I'm not sure if it's confirmed. A lot of these games, like if you could turn on Reflections in Battlefield now, if AMD in a year or two does put out a ray tracing card, I wouldn't be surprised if you can turn it on that card.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And the other thing, actually, this is a good pro tip for people who have Minecraft. If you have an account, like an old Java, I have an old Java account that I bought years and years ago. If you have one basically from, I think, 2 years before, if you had purchased Minecraft Java version, you automatically get the Windows 10
Yeah, you got to go on
version for free.
the Minecraft or Mojang, one of their websites, and you can claim it. They'll give you a key right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. I
nice.
didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it a long time ago.
Yeah, so you basically
huh.
have the Windows 10 version, which I know everybody just kind of like recoils at, but it's actually really slick.
If you don't want to wait for ray tracing, it's not quite ray tracing. If you have the Java version, though, some of the mods out
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are
exactly.
incredible.
Yeah, and there's
It'll
all
melt
those
your computer.
shader mods are awesome, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they look just as amazing in some ways. So, but I just don't know. If you're looking at $500 for a video card that you're going to be using for 4 years, would you really buy a $500 in that range, spend that much money on a high end card without a feature that is clearly being supported by a lot of games now?
I'm not sure that ray tracing, if you're going to keep it for 5 years, I might consider it. I'm not sure that ray tracing will be big enough in the next 2 to 3 years to justify spending an extra $100 over
Really?
Radeon XT.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it'll be much more common within 2 years, but I don't know if it's yet at must buy.
Yeah, to me, and one thing I want to make clear is I don't think I've said this before, and I stick to it. You don't have to buy a ray tracing card because we're in a transitionary period. And all these games, they have these cool ass new features. They will run perfectly fine without ray tracing, right? It'll just look different. So I think, and there's so many people that are just super happy playing in their 950 GeForce 950 from forever ago, and they don't have any problems. So it doesn't break the experience. But if you're spending a lot of money for it, it just feels like you want to get those next generation features. But maybe that's just my mindset,
Yeah, because I remember me and you got in a lot of arguments when all this first came out over the RTX 2080 and the 1080 Ti. I still,
'Cause I'm still right.
stand by what I would have said. You should have got a 1080 Ti. That one's going to go down in the Hall of Fame.
I can't wait for all of you three to play Minecraft with DXR turned on your
Also,
1080 Ti cards.
Brad Hilton in the YouTube chat points out something very interesting. They say most people, like Gordon, care about FPS. But it's weird that you're also saying that you wouldn't buy something without ray tracing because ray tracing definitely still has a hit on.
Yeah, I'm not
FPS.
a high refresh. I don't play at high refresh rates. I'm 60. So to me, if you can hit 60, anything excess is just plus. But
are those games actually getting that performance right now with ray tracing?
That's the part that I find interesting about the RTX, how it's rolling out, how it is coming to first-person shooters first. I was actually talking to someone from NVIDIA about this at one point. I find it interesting that it's first-person shooters that are driving this, as they always do, back in the day, because those are the splashy games. Those are the fast, the eye candy. But this nukes performance in first-person games. And first-person games are the games where you want the most frame rate. So it's kind of interesting, But the eye candy is great. If you can, get a 2060 or 2070 and play Battlefield, you can still turn on ray tracing, futz with a couple settings, and get it to a lock 60.
Yeah.
If you're fine with that for the eye candy, that's great. But a lot of people won't be fine with that. So I'm really interested in seeing ray tracing spread out to other genres. Because I think that's when it'll start making a bigger difference.
Right. And then I think the other thing is, it's not, you remember, because everybody conveniently forgets the outrage, but people were absolutely sure that ray tracing was going to go nowhere. Remember that sentiment? There were people that I got in discussions with that they were like, no, it's going to go nowhere. This is a dead end.
Yeah. It's NVIDIA really, I think, which is weird for NVIDIA because they're usually like the most ruthless, efficient PR machine ever. I think they really bungled that launch. Standing up on stage and talking about ray tracing for 2 hours, not giving any more performance for the same price point in traditional games. It was just a real bad combination that created like a, I want to say S-word storm, but I guess I can't. But it was a mess, and I think that tainted a lot of people's view of ray tracing. But ray tracing is awesome. If you go out there, if you talk to developers, any developer, they'll say, yeah, this is what we're waiting for. We love that. We can't wait for that to happen. Ray tracing is going to happen. The question is, how soon is it going to happen?
Ray tracing has been happening. It's been happening for years and years. I don't remember too many people saying it's going nowhere. Because it's been here. Well, ray tracing isn't anything new just because these cards came around.
Well, not in games, right?
Well, yeah. No, of course. Remember we were seeing demos on 4 Titan Vs or whatever,
come on, that's proof of concept. That's not.
But that doesn't. No, people have been doing ray tracing for certain things.
See, I think that was clever. How they started doing that before they announced the ray tracing cards. They're like, check out these demos. We got 4 Titan Vs around this thing, and then after it's like, oh, now we just got it on one RTX 2080 Ti.
Surprise!
I thought that was clever, but it was just bungled launch for them. I think.
All I have to say is, I think a 2080. If you bought a 2080 at launch,
yep,
for what, $550?
No.
$800, $700 for the.
So was 7. So 7.
Oh wait, you mean the same price for a 1080 Ti?
Gordon
Yeah.
doesn't
A 1080
care
Ti
about
was
price.
$650, right? At that time, it's $650 for a 1080 Ti, right?
No, they were a solid
$700.
$100 cheaper plus.
Yeah, but you're now looking at your card 1080 Ti that
Kicks
doesn't
ass.
do ray tracing. It's a great ray tracing. I'm convinced that to pay for a 2-year-old video card at 90% of what it came out at whatever the launch price of the 1080 Ti.
At this point, you can't. At this point, you're paying $1,000 for a 1080 Ti.
No, but at that time, people were so. I think everybody was wrong to say.
By people, you mean us?
No, everybody, because
No, he means
everyone.
the 3 people on the internet he was arguing with.
No, there were a lot of people that said buy 1080 Ti, right? That was just kind of like the
I mean, I said it.
You said it.
I still
I said it
stand
too.
by it.
Yeah.
And there was other people that have said it as well, and I think that's wrong. I think that I cannot, in good conscience, pay for Core 2 Duo. I could not pay $300 for Core 2 Duo. You know, when it was basically
It's
off of
wrong
its-
for you for sure, but it's not wrong for everybody.
I think it's very telling. Steve from Gamers Nexus a while ago did a video of what people are actually buying using their links. And they were taking a look at the graphics cards. And the 1080 Ti, the biggest spike they ever saw, they sold a ton of them, was right after the RTX 2080 launch.
Yeah, because everybody was like, I want a 1080 Ti. But again, the card was what?
But everybody's wrong.
$700 when it came out. Remember that big announce? Hey, we got
Yeah.
the 1080 Ti with $700. It wasn't really $700. It was
Yeah, $650.
$700 launch, price, and then it was selling for like $800 for a
Yeah,
few months.
just
and
like
then-
all of them.
But it did settle down to $700. So 2 years after that card has been on the market, you're happy to pay $650 for it? I just think that's crazy.
I would be happy to
That's
pay.
crazy.
It was $600 to $650, and I'd be happy to pay that versus $800 for the same traditional game performance. That's the reason it was. That's a. You can't bet on the future, like we were just talking about with DirectX 12.
Yeah, you can't. It is you don't know if it's going to end up. And there was a possibility that there'd be so much resistance it would collapse, and it's
So
something
it
we
was
wouldn't see
fair
for
for
10
us to
years.
say what we said at the time. You have the benefit of hindsight right now because we actually are seeing support that we didn't know we were going to see this soon.
Something that I think gets lost in the fact when we're talking about ray tracing, because NVIDIA does a great job of saying, look at all these that are coming out. Cyberpunk's getting it, Doom's getting it, Wolfenstein's going to get a patch. There are only like 3 or 4 games that you can actually turn ray tracing on still. It's been a year since those cards
Right.
launched.
But when those features are supported, and clearly there were a bunch of games, we saw Gamescom that will support it,
Yep.
Minecraft will support it.
Yep.
Your $600, $700 investment will give you those cool new features.
I'm really excited for Control and Minecraft, actually. Both of those coming out of Gamescom look amazing.
That's coming. Excuse me. When is that coming in 2020?
They just said sometime in 2020 for Minecraft. Control is next week or the week after.
Okay.
Sometime soon.
And what are you going to do when you hook up with your console friends? Like, hey, check this out. I got the new PS5. It's got ray tracing. Well, what are you playing? I don't have that on my 1080 Ti that I paid near full value for 2 years after it came out. No.
So if you bought a 1080 Ti, what was it, August of last year? Mm-hmm. We're here. 1 year later, we're here. We're probably not going to see any more games outside of Control that really have this until 2020. So you'll have gotten 2 years out of it? 2 years is the low end of the cycle that Jensen was talking about. So those people who are on 2 year cycles are probably going to be ready to upgrade.
I think that doesn't. If you bought 2 years ago or last August, if you bought that card, you would not be upgrading. It's just that is a lot of money. You've sunk a lot of money into that card already.
I know,
They're-
and,
What are
and people with that kind of money
They
they're
use
probably
their
going to
hobby.
upgrade quick.
Some people with that kind of money, and you know what? People with that kind of money, do you think they care? I talked to this one person. He bought a 2080 Ti. He don't care. He's got 3 monitors. Is he going to buy some card that just got replaced? That's basically selling for the same price. You're going to go out and buy a 2017 Tercel for the same
Look,
price
I
as
know
2019?
I know a guy who bought a Camry with leather seats and didn't get automatic door locks.
Oh yeah, locks. Locks is tough. No, even I could even see that. You know what?
I was
that
like,
makes sense.
dude,
No,
what are you thinking, man?
no, that is. I'm sorry. I've had enough problems with door locks and window motors going
Yeah,
out.
window
No, he
I
bought
would-
it because that was the model available, and he's like, it's fine. I might replace this in a few years anyway.
In 8
There are people who
years-
think like that,
In
Gordon.
8 years, when we've all gone through. I've already gone through. I don't know how many window motors I've changed out. It's worth it. It's worth it.
All I'm saying is there
I
are people
wish
who
I
think
could
like
get
that.
manual roll down windows and a carburetor.
And just to clarify, there are a couple games coming out this year. Like
Wolfenstein.
about 3. Well,
are there? Okay.
yeah, Watch Dogs Legion, Call of Duty Modern Warfare will have Shadows.
Legion's next
Okay.
year.
Is it? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Legion's next
Then,
year.
yeah. And when does Dying Light 2 come out? Is that this year? or
That's
next year?
also next March, I believe. Next
Oh,
March and
geez.
April are going to be
Alright.
nuts.
Well, at least one more. So yeah.
Wolfenstein's getting a patch.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I would agree that if you are not, I'm saying you don't have to buy ray tracing. Everything works. It doesn't break everything. But if you are buying a new video card and you're not heavily factoring in ray tracing, it's crazy. I do think it's crazy to like. At this point, it is a foregone conclusion that ray tracing is the future. Of course, the better idea.
It's part of the future.
Yeah, it's part of the future.
Part of the future. Not everyone is going to still embrace it as the future.
Developers don't make games to not sell them to people. That's the one lesson we've all learned is they want their stuff to run on everything. They'll run on IGP, right? They have no problems.
Yeah, but if a developer has to take time to code in real-time ray tracing with their own money, I'm not saying if NVIDIA steps in, and that's only going to be used by 5% of the people, or, maybe that's generous. I mean, they're not going to do that either.
I'm real curious to see. Also, this week, NVIDIA announced that its GeForce Now game streaming service is almost soon to be out of beta. They just said come in months, which is a lot more than they said in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
But they're rolling out RTX servers to that, starting in Germany and Northern California this week. So if you subscribe to their GeForce Now streaming service, which for right now you can sign up on a wait list and it's free. You can just play your games on it.
Yeah.
That'll have RTX capabilities built in. I'm curious to see if that's just going to be part of the native service or if it's going to be an upcharge or what. But that, if it's as good as it has been in the beta, then that could help drive game adoption, I think.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet because you said one of the servers is in San Francisco?
Northern California.
Oh, Northern California. Okay, yeah, because I'm on the service and I use it, and I'm excited to try it out. Maybe I'll do a video or something.
Yeah, is it available yet? Or
Yeah, it came out this week.
Oh.
It came out as part of Gamescom. Sign up for the wait list if you have a big Steam backlog that you haven't played, because they install games really quick. You just boot them up, get those game cards, sell them all during the Steam sale, and get a bunch of free games.
Boom.
Pro tip.
like Minecraft. Look at the good deals here. Really good deals.
Speaking of good deals, I think we should start talking about these $500 PCs.
I agree.
Yeah.
Great deals. Bum, bum, bum. So give them a little bit of a back history of what we're doing, why we're doing this.
So we're talking about $500 PC bills because that's fun. We've done it once before. I was looking it up last night. It was episode 8 of The Full Nerd. We did a $500 PC build off, and it was really fun. It was actually really popular. People still talk about it.
Who won?
I forget who won.
I don't remember.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I was busy studying this till like midnight trying to come up with a kick-ass PC. But there was a lot of compromises. Like I was looking back, and the PC that I built at the time had a spinning hard drive, and not just any spinning hard drive, a 5,400 RPM spinning hard drive.
Oh,
It had just like the most atrocious. Like if you had $500, it would have been a good build at the time to try to build a gaming PC. But that was 2 years ago. 2 years later, you can get a whole lot of PC for $500 these days.
Night and day.
So
although
we're doing it again. We're bringing it back.
I do think a lot of the parts are probably the same parts from 2 years ago.
No.
Some of them are practically that old, I think. All right, who's going to go first? People don't know this, but nobody wanted to share what they were doing because nobody wanted to give it away. I think Elaine is faking all her stuff right now. She's creating a website.
I've got mine.
To fake the numbers.
Does Brad want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
We'll go right to left.
Yeah.
I'm the guest.
Right to left.
I mean,
Right to left.
courtesy.
1 second. Let me bring up for the home audience Brad's PC part picker list, and I also have the link on there if anyone wants to go check it out.
Okay, the rules were $500.
That's it.
Gaming, so we're going to assume a Windows machine.
Gaming.
So if anybody here does Linux, I respect that. Windows is a better gaming platform, right?
Actually, with Steam, they have Proton, it's called, and they're running basically like Wine right in Steam. And so a lot of games that are theoretically Windows only work well on Linux now.
Wow.
So if you're running Linux and you gave up on that a long time ago because it used to be a pain in the ass to get games running on Linux, give it a shot sometime.
But did any of us really factor in a Windows key into our build?
I'm gonna give y'all a pro tip that's very not legally sanctioned, but I'm gonna blow it out here and say it. With Windows 10, ever since Windows 10 launched, when you install it, you can just activate this later, and it will let you use it forever. And all it will do is put an activate Windows watermark in the corner, and won't let you change your desktop background. So if you're on that tight of a budget, I was factoring that in.
So
if you go to any trade show, people in the audience won't know this, but if you go to any trade show, every single one of the demo stations from all the big companies you see have Activate Windows in the corner.
So here's one other question though. So do not go over 500. If you go over 500, you lose. Prices
I
right
went
rules?
over 500.
Yes.
What?
Oh,
So no, it was never
I'll give a
actually
justification why. Also, before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to Ziv Zoolander. Gave us $25 on a super chat because
cool.
Brad's looking extra lifelike with RTX on.
How much? How much did you? Well, how much do you do? Are we going to decide going over? You lose.
We'll talk about it when it's all done.
All right.
I did not go over.
I didn't go over because I understand how rules work.
Also, I didn't
So-
expect to win, so so I was like, I'll bend the rules.
So my build, it totals up right now to $491.92.
And
nice.
here's the list for the home viewers. Why don't you walk us through it?
Sure. Before I start, I just want to talk about when you're shopping for budgets, tight budgets, prices do fluctuate. When I finished this build last night, it was like $5 cheaper. There were times this morning some of these weren't even available. So if you're shopping on a tight budget and you see something at a really good price, I recommend jumping on it because they come and go real quick when you're trying to go cheap. But the genesis of my PC here is I just wanted a really nice, all-around good PC, like something that has some legs for the future. You can do anything you want on it, really. It obviously won't play 4K games. It's a $500 PC. But I wanted to give it a nice, well-rounded base. So for me, these days, Ryzen 5 is the mainstream chip that you want. Core i5, the way it's been neutering hyperthreading, I just think it's much smarter to go for Ryzen 5 these days if you're on a budget. Now that Ryzen 3000 just came out, you can get really great deals on Ryzen 2000 chips. So for that reason, the heart of my computer is the Ryzen 5 2600 processor, which right now you can get on Amazon for $130 with free Prime shipping. So everything in here is either free or Prime shipping. So I didn't have any shipping costs on mine. And so having decided that I want the Ryzen 5 2600 because $130 for 6 threads and 12 cores, that's ludicrous still to my brain. I know we're starting to get into that era, but that's just ridiculous. So I went for a B450 motherboard, an ASRock, bunch of names, bunch of letters. It's a cheap B450 motherboard, micro ATX. You can theoretically overclock on all four B450 boards with any AMD processor. This is a real bottom barrel. Like, this is literally the cheapest motherboard I could find. I don't know how much you want to trust the VRMs, but it should work fine out of the box if you don't overclock. So to pair with that, I was really surprised to find it. I got a single stick of 16 gigabyte memory.
Yeah, we have some people in chat wondering why you went single stick, single channel.
Because I know I was trying real hard to find 2 8 gigabyte sticks because Ryzen does prefer dual channel setups, but that would push it over the $500. I only had $8 worth of wiggle room, and believe it or not, I couldn't find 2x8 setup for under that $10. So I went with the 116 gigabyte memory stick because I feel like even though Ryzen prefers dual channel, I think it's worth it to get 16 gigabytes if you're going to be playing games these days. Amazingly, I was also able to get a 480 gigabyte no-name inland solid-state drive, which we've highlighted in deal posts a few times before. It's basically 10 cents a gig, 500 gigabytes almost of solid-state speed. It's not going to be the fastest solid-state drive you ever had or ever will have, but it's a solid-state drive for $50. My graphics card is the Radeon RX 570 Pulse from Sapphire. I've tested that card, actually. I like it a lot. I like it a whole lot for $120. And that comes with 3 months of Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass for PC service, too. So you get a little something extra out of it. When you build this PC, you'll get 3 months worth of 100 games that you can play on it right away. And, I mean, that just adds to the value, I figure. And that's a great card, especially at that price. You won't be able to crank everything at 1080p resolution, but you can get solid, like, high setting performance, which I think getting good high graphics settings performance in a $500 PC, like, I'm just so happy with the way this build came out. And after that, I just got, like, the cheapest possible case I could find that has 2 fans, which is crucial. As we were talking on the all AMD build yesterday, I feel that every PC in general, but especially gaming PCs, need intake and, as I called it yesterday, an outtake, but an exhaust fan to get that hot air out of the case. This is the cheapest case I could find. Also, micro ATX, just like my motherboard, gets the hot air out, $20. It's not going to be great, but it gets the job done. And along those lines, I've got Best Buy's Insignia brand 550 watt power supply. It's a little bit more than that you would need for a build like this, but in case you ever upgrade your graphics card in the future, 550 watts is the way to go. It's still 80 plus bronze certified, so I'm happy with it. $492.
I have a suggestion from the chat. Somebody, I can't find it. Here it is. Isaac is asking, would you rather go with the R5 1600 and get a 580 instead?
I think it depends on your use case. I have a first-gen Ryzen part, and I'm still happy with it. I have an 1800X. But there's been big performance jumps for each of the Ryzen generations so far. Moving from first-gen Ryzen to second-gen Ryzen was a big performance leap in single-thread performance, and from second to third, much more so. But I feel like that's important for gaming, so especially at 1080p gaming, I feel like this is a solid combination.
Cool.
That's certainly doable, don't get me wrong. But 1080p gaming, you can start getting into CPU-bound loads a lot more often than you were at higher resolutions. So that's why I think that's a good pair.
Or Brad Hilton brought up, what if you went with the 1600 instead and were able to do 2 sticks of 8 gigs? So you get the dual channel memory.
I like the way you think.
It'd break his budget, though. If you could,
it depends. I know, like right now, Micro Center's having some good sales. Someone was telling me on Twitter last night where it's like $100 to get the 1600 with a motherboard. I couldn't find that online because someone mentioned that on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm looking for this.
If you said Micro Center, everything's in store for the best deals.
So if you can find something like that and keep it under $500, go for it.
Yeah, we did not factor in store, and we did not factor used. There's some people asking.
No, we didn't say that. There was no limitation on used.
That's true.
There's no limitation on used.
I also didn't say that you could borrow somebody's stuff, but that doesn't make it right.
No, we
used
did
is
it last
fine.
time. Last time we did used as well.
But anyway,
We got the same rules as last time.
I think this is a great build for under $500. Like, I would be thrilled with this if I built it.
So I have 2 questions for you, Brad.
Okay.
Obviously for pricing considerations, I assume that's why you went with a 4 gig buffer instead of an 8 gig for the card.
And at 1080p, you're going to be playing on high anyway. So the 8 gig is really more if you're going to be playing on 1080p with ultra settings, you should worry about it. At high settings, I don't think it's much of a consideration.
Okay. And the second question is, you trust Insignia as a brand for power supplies? Because I know for the two of us, we tend to be more conservative when it comes to choosing a power supply. I was a little surprised to see this just because it's not, one of the normal brands.
It has to do with budgets. I really wanted 80 plus bronze. That's my minimum in a powered supply. Like I won't buy a power supply if it's not 80 plus bronze, and that's the one I could get in the budget.
Now, is that for to take into account efficiency, given like ambient temperatures, that it'll perform better under such conditions?
I just. Power supplies, like we said, are one of the things that you don't want to skimp on. And I just like the 80 bronze certification. That certifies that it operates, it's going to operate within this expected realm. It's not a crapshoot. So that's the reason I was going for that.
Cool.
I have a question.
Oh, here we go.
I don't see an operating system on here.
He already explained his
Yeah,
thing.
he just explained.
Yeah, you just put it on there and you just say, I'll do it later, and make sure you do it next week
Wait, what?
when you get your check.
You mean there's no operating system?
No,
on
he's
your
got
machine?
Windows 10.
He's got Windows 10.
I don't.
Just an unactivated version of Windows 10.
I see.
I'm gaming on Linux. There's this new thing that Steam does called Proton, where a lot of the games work.
He also mentioned that too.
So no.
Actually, when
operating
Elena
system.
did a video about how to get Windows 10 for cheap, there were a lot of comments in there saying, "Hey, you know what? I run Windows 10 unactivated, and I just have to deal with the watermark, and I can't change my background."
Yep.
I would be worried because at one point they may, you know what? You deadbeats. You deadbeats. We're cutting you off. We're cutting you off. So I just think that is an invalid cheat.
I think you should tell us about your build.
Okay, let's do mine. Hopefully I got the right one because I had 2. I had one for over and one for under. Is it 486?
Hold on, let me bring it up. It is.
I had one for.
Oh well, one of the prices didn't populate, so it's 457.
Oh wait,
So
what?
I don't know what.
Yeah, it's 486, the one I'm looking at.
Let me try this
So-
again. Try that one.
All right, well, explain it to us while you do that, because I need to
All right.
grab a screenshot.
There's a lot of similarities here.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's the same one. For some reason, that Gigabyte isn't showing me a price when I click on the link.
Huh.
So
That's
whatever.
because, like I was saying earlier, you
Yeah.
need to buy stuff right away when you see it when you're buying cheap.
But the link should still show up, though. It doesn't show up.
Yeah,
at all.
yeah. The link shows up. It's just the price is wrong.
Yeah, it's
but
$55. So
we'll trust you. Here it is.
So I actually considered. Oh,
I'm just putting it on the screen for the
okay.
people.
We'll put it on the screen. There's a Gigabyte GA-A320M motherboard, just a micro ATX. Basically, cheapest micro ATX that I could find that will run the Ryzen 3 1200. It's a quad part. It's the original Ryzen 3. $59 for that. $55 for my Gigabyte 320 board.
Wait, so that puts you over 500.
No, that's 486. I'm looking at it right here.
Out of the link that you sent me says 457. So
Yeah, no.
okay.
So the
All right.
the one it's added it up for me right here. So unless the math is wrong on PC Part Picker.
That's
but-
weird because I clicked on the same link and I'm also seeing 486.29.
Oh really? Yeah, I see.
Continue.
I see 456 without the price of the motherboard. So whatever. Well, the stream is seeing it wrong. So
What?
Just-
Okay. Well,
just
wait
so
a
they
minute.
know.
Try that link I put in there again. You see?
Yeah.
I literally just I
Really?
literally just clicked
Just read
it.
out the prices.
That's
that you're saying,
weird.
Gordon.
So what you are seeing, so we're going to go with the Ryzen 3 1200 quad core. We're going to do an A320M for $55. For memory, again, very tough. I thought, well, could I do 1.8? Can I? It'd be great to do 16 gigs, but at the prices I'm pushing, I went with 2 G.Skill value, 8 gig DIMMs, DDR4 2400, $30. So that at least gets me dual channel. I don't give up at least that. 8 gigs is a little tough, but it's still very doable. For SSD, this motherboard does actually have an M.2, but it is an HP EX900. It's a 500 gig M.2 NVMe drive. For the GPU, I went with the same GPU that Brad did. Oh, the NVMe was $57. The RX 570 was $120. I use, actually, of course, we just sorted by cheapest POS case you can get.
Yep.
A DIY PC MA01 Micro ATX Mini Tower for
Same one I did.
$1998. I went with a Seasonic power supply. Seasonic is, of course, an actual manufacturer of power supplies. $45.
However, I researched that one too.
Yeah.
And I have something to say about that when you're done.
But here's my thing: is you could see, some of these things, it would be nice to get a higher core count, maybe even a bigger GPU. But I have Windows 10 Home OEM 64-bit, which is $99, according to my list. All this adds up to $486.29.
after mail-in rebate.
Yes, of course, but that's part of it, right? I think a rebate's pretty valid because people.
No,
can
it
qualify
totally
for that.
is, but it always it's good to tell people that.
Well, I think this is I'm glad that you went right after me because we do have like the same case, the same graphics card, the same, core gaming bits there.
I have an
the
operating
big
system.
difference being the $100 when you're working with a $500 budget for Windows. I think this really drives home that if you can get it cheaper, if you can make do with Proton on Linux, if you can get a $20 copy of Windows from Kingwin, pay the extra $3 to $5 for the software protection, then you can step up to a Ryzen 5 second gen as opposed to a Ryzen 3 first gen, and you have a A320 motherboard, which is bare bottom, doesn't have anything extra. B450.
I'm pretty sure the clocks are the same. The chipset won't change at all.
Those are but B450 you can overclock. It
Yeah.
supports a couple more
Yeah, I'm
USBs and stuff like that.
And it would only have cost you $5 more, Gordon. I'm not sure why you didn't go with a B450 board.
Because
$5 will put them over with.
No, because the Gigabyte model he has here for the A320M is $55, showing on Amazon. So the motherboard I chose, and I think the one you chose as well, right now with coupon code on Newegg, I think it's at $60. So it would have been $5 more.
Well, so far I have the only actual valid machine with an operating system. So I think
All right, so
Elena
next.
should go next.
I am just going to point out that yes, I'm saying you can install Windows and keep using it, but Linux really is a valid option these days. If you, Jason
according to
Evangelo used to
chat.
write for us.
It's true.
He does a lot of work at Forbes. He focuses a lot on Linux these days, and Linux gaming in particular, and it has made strides compared to what it was before.
So I can play
Like,
my
if you
entire
have-
Steam library, every single game.
A lot of it, you can
Well,
try to play all
Is
of
a
them.
lot
but-
of it is the same as all of them? Come on.
But what I'm saying is,
Just gonna stretch
in a
out. Wait for this to be over.
$500 PC build, spending $100.
Let's say it a couple more times before the end.
That's 20% of the price. Like, that's a lot of money to be spending on $500 build.
It is, isn't it? To actually buy
Yeah.
an operating system, it's expensive. It is actually very
You
expensive.
both have very valid points.
I think that means shut up.
No, what I mean is that you're going to want to save some of that energy
You
to
better
tear
go.
into my build.
You better go.
'Cause
Let's see Elena's.
You guys are going to have fun with this one. So I always feel like I'm the most conservative member of this team. So I tend to be very like, well, you shouldn't do this. And if you do this, it could happen. So this time, I took a cue off of one of your recent videos, Gordon, and you said it was okay to get a used CPU. So I was like, all right, I'm doing eBay.
Nice.
So my build, I also the specs are very similar to both of yours, or actually more to Brad's actually. So I have a Ryzen 5 2600 used on eBay, and you guys can actually click on the link. But I looked at sold listings.
Oh,
as
I just bid on that. It's
Can-
now $500, Elena.
Did you actually let me finish my sentence? Because I said sold listings. So these are the prices that it actually sold at. So this means there's a possibility. I have a documented possibility of getting it at this price. Includes the cooler, $105. That only shaves like what, $20 off of getting it for retail. But you'll see why, because I had to put that money elsewhere. And eBay is not your only option. Obviously, you can, if you trust the hardware swap subreddit, that's an option. I actually, if I was brave enough to do it, I might go that route because those people seem real cool, and they have like a reputation system for that as well.
Yep.
And you're more likely, I feel like you're more likely to get somebody who understands the part, who's going to be more honest about if they overclocked it, so on and so forth. But eBay, at least you have the buyer protection, so it's kind of like which route you're more comfortable with. Motherboard is that same ASRock B450M HDV, a bunch of other letters, micro ATX board. When I saw it last night, it was $60. I checked Newegg Circular again, or their newsletter this morning. I think that's the same model I saw, still $60 today. For RAM, I had to pare back. I really wanted to go with dual channel, and I wanted to go with 16 gigs, but I couldn't make it work. So I went down to 8 because I feel like, so this build was in my mind for somebody who wants the best they can get for gaming performance. So there's someone who's going to want like ultra. They want to get the most out of it, and they just can't afford it now, but someday they're going to want to upgrade. And I wanted to make it as smooth an upgrade as possible, so like to kind of get the parts in there that makes it a little less difficult later on. So I figured RAM is one of those things that is easy to upgrade in the future. So I was like, okay, 8 gigs now. It's going to be in the long run more expensive to get another set of DIMMs later, but at least it's a fairly simple upgrade. So that's the justification behind that.
I was actually 3,000 megahertz. I did mention it when I was doing it, but I see you get that. That was a consideration for me too. I find that to be a sweet spot for a second gen.
Yeah, I felt this. I felt the same way. At this point, I don't really even bother to look at anything below.
Yeah.
Storage at the time last night, the Intel 660p, 512 gigabyte M.2 stick was $60. It's actually been on sale for less, and I was really bummed out that it wasn't on sale when we were doing this challenge or prepping for it. I know people have said things about its endurance, but I feel like for a normal use case, it should be fine in the long run. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, I mean, there's other options as well in that same price range. I have like $5 wiggle room, so you probably could have gone with a different model within that range. And so the video card is where I end up spending more money. And that's why I had to kind of cut corners elsewhere. And I got a 570 with an 8 gigabyte amount of video memory there. And so that drove up the cost another like $20 over yours, I think. Because in my mind, you can't upgrade that.
Yep.
So you're stuck with it. So
Yep.
I felt like that's why I pared back on the RAM, the system RAM memory, and I went with that instead.
Makes sense.
For the case, I went with a more expensive case, and it's because I like the position of the fans better. I did have to buy a fan, though, because it only comes with the exhaust fan at the back, from what I could tell. But there's 2 fans you could do for intake on the front, and there's like a buttload of space for storage if you want. Like there's like 2 drive cages in there. So I felt like if this is somebody who's like, I'm a hardcore gamer, I can only afford to go with an SSD, as my first storage drive. But along the line, down the line, I can, add like a spinning platter drive if I want, or even like a 2.5 inch, SSD. You'll have room for it. I have built, not specifically in that DIY or whatever case that you guys mentioned, but I have built in cases like it, and they have literally drawn blood.
Yeah.
So I also have this standard now where I'm like, that case looks like it's going to draw blood for me. I'm not doing it.
It's true. There's only been one case under $50 that I've only ever built in one case that was under $50 that was not an utter pain in the butt.
Yeah. So I kind of felt like I know Thermaltake. That case is super popular, and it's going to be popular for a reason. So I went with that. It was a good price right now. Power supply. So I looked at the Seasonic, and turns out that word on the street, I didn't have time to fully investigate this, but word on the street is Seasonic is not actually the one producing that particular version. Like the S2 they did, I think, but the S3 they're not. It might be like a rebranding of, you know how it is with power supplies, right?
Power supplies. What's funny is that Seasonic actually builds power supplies for other people, so that's really ironic that someone else has built them.
I don't know how true it is.
That's word on the street.
I'm fully admitting to this word on the street because I didn't have a lot of time to research it. I decided to skip it as an option.
Good call.
So again, I went with Thermaltake. Seems pretty reliable. It's a little more expensive. It's not bronze certified. I think it's only white certified, which is one step down. But to me, even having that 80 plus certification is something that at least you can rely on.
Yep.
I admittedly don't think about hotter climates. So I live in San Francisco, so I don't also have to worry so much about ambient temperatures affecting like my power supply's efficiency. So that is a little short-sighted on that part. And then the final thing in my build is a single intake fan that I bought. And it was like the cheapest one that I was like, okay, so I like the specs on how much air it's supposed to push, supposedly, and the decibel levels are okay, so I'll take this one.
And Silverstone is an actual brand that PC people know.
Yeah,
I heard
too.
they don't make that fan though, Elena. Yeah. Tony told me that.
Are you sure?
No, I made that up.
Well, I don't know.
That's word on the street. You know what word on the street means? I made it up.
Tony is not word on the street. Tony is the actual rep at Silverstone.
No, I don't mean Tony at Silverstone. I mean the guy who makes my pizzas. He told me that.
Hey, Tony.
Don't buy that fan, Gordon. Word on the street is
And then
they're coming from
rounding,
a bulk
so
container.
bookending my eBay experience here is a Windows 7 license from eBay.
There you go. I can add that to mine and still fit in budget too.
Because for now, you can still actually get a free upgrade to Windows 10 using a Windows 7 or Windows 8 8.1 license.
Maybe.
This is $3.99. I actually have another option here on purpose because that is for a British UK seller. And I'm like, well, Gordon might raise the US flag here. So the other seller is based in New York, Gordon.
It's cool. So you're taking
raises
advantage of a loophole then that is entirely possible has been closed.
It has not been
will
closed.
be closed.
It has not been closed yet.
Oh.
This has not been.
So it's available now. I come out
So I'm
at $4.96.
$4.95.
Well, that's if you go with the US seller.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, this cut a couple of corners, but for me, it was actually interesting doing it as an exercise anyway, because I don't buy used typically. So it was just kind of interesting to see what's on eBay. And Gordon, I did it because specifically you said it was okay to do it.
Yeah. So my problem with buying used as recommended buys is there's no fixed price. there's no fixed quality. There's no fixed supplier.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that it's a real world tactic that people use.
Yep.
Sure.
So I decided to give it a shot this time.
Especially in
Sometimes-
such a price constrained build.
Yeah.
Like $100 is a lot.
I have
Yeah.
one of those outfits. I
Here we
dress
go.
up as an e-waster, and I just go rummage through like e-waste stuff. That's another possibility people do too.
Sure.
And you just get that's. I just don't think that. I personally don't think that fits the spirit of a build. Not having an operating system, buying used components from somebody, it might even be counterfeit. Could be
A lot of people
counterfeit.
buy used. Somebody I know just did a video about whether or not it's okay to buy used, and they said, "Yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
all right."
It is fine, but I'm saying it's recommended. You would not recommend.
I'm
that
not
to someone.
recommending this as a strategy to everybody. This is my build.
Wait, Adam, we got to do Adam because we're gonna hit that.
I
We're
know.
gonna hit our.
We're running out of
pumpkin
time.
soon.
Running out of time.
I mean, we don't have to, you know.
Oh, really? You don't want to do it?
I mean,
'Cause
I
you
can.
went over the line.
Well, actually,
Adam.
I-
There are
I really
rules.
want to see this because we were talking on the walk to public transit yesterday, and it sounded like you were going with a really specific strategy. I want to see how that played out.
Yeah, well, actually, I made 2 builds.
Share the link with us too, Adam.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Do
yes.
the one you want to submit. Do the one you want to
Well,
submit.
the first build is under price. Copy and paste. I need to bring it up.
I
over
find
here.
I think it's interesting. Lena's and my build while you're doing that is a lot alike. The big difference being the RAM, which I think we came from the same kind of idea. Like that's where you can sacrifice. I think it's interesting. We just took 2 different directions. You're like, you can replace this whole hog in a bit. Where I'm like, I'll spend that to get the 116 gigabyte now. And then my thought was, when you have the extra $60, you can just get another one and plop it in and have 32.
True. So a couple things for me real quick. It was humbling to do this. I obviously didn't spend a ton of time on it, but for me, I was like, dang, you know, it is hard to sit here, especially if you're limited on budget. You know, I mostly play in like building PCs, like, you know, not in a $500 budget. So, you know, the people who have to do this, they really have to put some time and effort into it. And I'm also lucky because I'm definitely the most junior on the team for PC building, but I get to be here in the office with Gordon or Slack Brad and be like, hey, which would you pick? So I'm lucky enough to have people who I can bounce ideas off of. I didn't do it for this, obviously, but you know, who knows? Anyway, so this is my first build. I'll bring it up here. I went with 2200G. You know, you know what? Before that, I will back up and say, so for me, the kind of build I was thinking of was, imagine if I am a video editor who needs a work box that, you know, with, you know, like, so I came
sense.
at it not from gaming, I came at it from video editing, photo editing. I need this PC to do my work, which is why the other one went over. But yeah, anyway, this first one, Ryzen 2200G, I needed quad core. I needed, you know, some good clocks. The motherboard, you know, I just got a nice motherboard. I didn't think too much about it. I definitely need the 2-channel. I need 16 gigs at least for the programs I use for video. This one, I did have an SSD. I could have went even cheaper, but I mean, whatever, it was $30. And then the 1 terabyte spinning platter. Sure, it's a spinning platter that sucks, but I need room for my video files, so I needed a big option. And I went with a 1650 because I need that CUDA performance, especially in my editing software suite. And the case actually spent a little bit of time on the case because I cared, I guess, more about aesthetics. And I actually kind of, I've never seen this case before. You know,
cool looking.
I actually kind of liked the look of the case.
Is this the one that has like the magnetic like dust filter that you can pop off the front? Like that's what the aesthetic is from?
I don't know. No, because it wraps around to the top. There's like a handle too. Like I
okay.
was just like, wow, okay, this for that cheap, that's actually not that bad of a case. And then the power
it looks
supply,
good.
whatever the cheapest I could get. So, and then I assumed if I'm a video editor on a budget, I'm running an unlicensed version of Windows 10 because I can't do Linux with Adobe products.
You don't have an operating system either.
I have an operating
All his
system. it's
money
just
went to
not-
Adobe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So on top of that, I have to pay for Adobe Creative Cloud. So my second build Or does anyone want to say on that
Yes.
one before I get to
I
my
wanna
second
see.
build?
Oh,
I'm
I-
actually really glad you did this because I think it's really interesting to see it from the perspective of a video editor. So
Yeah.
I like this a lot, actually.
The one thing I have a question on is why didn't you go with 3,000 megahertz memory? Because it would only cost you like another $5 to $10, and you have the budget for
No,
it.
to get 3,000 in dual channel is much more. That's the reason I only have the one.
No, when I was looking last night on Newegg, I was finding
Oh,
things for
I was
like
only
60
to clarify. I was only looking on PC Part Picker.
or
So,
PC Part Picker
yeah.
actually. I was
I
seeing
think
them.
the
last
cheapest
night.
one I saw was 70 or 75.
Really? I'll look right now.
Well, like I said,
I'm curious. That's why.
yeah, that's the reason
You know
I
how
have
I
the
am.
one stick because
Oh,
that's because I
okay.
couldn't find dual channel.
All right, let's take a look because you know how I am about pricing.
I had an alternate. I actually had an alternate build where I went with a dual core Celeron, which is stupid cheap, and it got me. I could still run dual core with a 500 gig SSD.
Oh, that's what
But
I forgot to mention.
But it can move me up to a 580. I actually had a 580 build for 525, but I didn't want to go over.
So I thought about that too, about going Intel, and I didn't mention this on my build, but the reason I decided to go with AMD was because of the upgrade path, right? Because if I get an AM4 board, that means that if I want to upgrade to 3rd gen Ryzen, then I can do that. Whereas if I pick an Intel part, I'm kind of locked into like a really narrow window of
Yeah,
chipset.
I sort of think that though, if you're basically not even running an operating system, that you're probably not going to be going out and buying a 9900K
Yeah, but
any
you got
day
a
now.
Celeron in there.
No, but I didn't. This is the alternate build. But
No, I
it
know.
would've
I'm
been,
just saying,
you know,
but in this alternate build,
But you
got
can get up
Celeron.
to probably a
No, it's cool, it's cool.
a
Sorry.
6.
Well, real quick, my alternate
Second
build. There we go. I put it in the thing. I actually have an Audible. I will show what I have in here because I mean I'm a video editor. Honestly, I was like, dang. As much as it'd be cool to go with Ryzen, I need that IGP. Quick sync would work wonders on this stuff. So I kind of took a cut on the video card, just because Adobe still does support this. I still get CUDA performance, but I get that IGP in that 9400. But today, I'm going to call an audible on PC World right now. You can get an i5 9600K for $220. So
That's a lot of money.
about $30 more on this will get me 6 cores.
Wait.
And for a video editor,
Wait, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
When you say on PC World, are we talking about the UK store, or are you talking about a deal
No,
that
us,
we
it was
mentioned on our
over-
site?
yeah,
There's a deal
Ian
we saw
posted
this
it today.
morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's on.
shopping
It's on.
internationally?
No, it's on Amazon. There's a link on
Okay,
on
sorry.
PCWorld.com right now. So yeah, man. Oh man, I get QuickSync. I get 6 cores. Sure, I don't get as beefy as a graphics card, but I still get that CUDA performance. I did have to drop the SSD, which is fine. I'm fine going with a bigger spinning platter disk. I still get the 2-channel memory. In this case, I didn't like as much as the other one, but I did want to try to look for a different case. And this one I kind of like too, from a visual standpoint. I don't know about airflow and stuff like that, but so yeah, that was my second one because I'm like, listen, if I'm really building this and I'm gonna do work, I'm going to go over budget. I'm going to be like, man, if I can get 6 cores and IGP and pay for the Intel Premium, it really does matter in what I do as a video editor. So
yeah, this build is
that's why I
actually
went that way.
interesting. It's not a great gaming box with a 1030, but for video editing, it's for entry level video editing, it's quite all right?
And yeah, somebody's pointing out I'm getting compatibility warnings, but yeah, that's the
Chipset BIOS.
the chipset BIOS thing. So.
I don't know. I think the one interesting thing is everybody willing to basically not have it. Well, you 3 essentially don't have operating systems.
All right, we got to go to
mean-
our meeting. We actually have to go. So.
I just want to say I think it's ridiculous.
So here's the
I think it's ridiculous.
I don't disagree with you, Gordon. I would say that, if I'm talking to somebody from a media outlet and kind of doing more of the official voice, like I wouldn't necessarily recommend these things per se, like as in like this is the only way. But there is a real world kind of situation too you have to take into account. You got to stay current and, relate to the people.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. I got a call.
Yeah, you literally do.
Oh, wait. Look who's calling me.
Oh, who is it? Satya Nadella.
It's Satya, my good friend Satya.
He's giving you a buzz. That's hilarious.
Hey, what's up?
I don't want to know how he did that.
I know how you
What's
did
up?
it.
Yeah, I
okay.
know. Yeah. Remember,
He's played this trick before.
I was calling you earlier because I wanted to know what you thought about running unlicensed activation.
Anyway,
That's not okay. That's Microsoft would frown on that. That's What about trying to buy Windows 7 and then telling somebody to upgrade that? You think that's
Oh yeah, that is supported.
You think
yeah.
that's a serious pain in the ass to tell somebody to do on a new machine?
Yep.
But you could do it. Huh.
You tell Nadella that we need to
Yeah.
go. We have a big
Okay.
meeting coming up.
We gotta go.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
wait, check it out. So their names are Brad Charkis, Elena Yee, and Anna Patrick Murray. If you could have them turn them off in database.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yep, cool.
Okay, man. I'll see you later.
So Brad's build actually could be better. I found a $60 2-dim kit.
Which is the same price as my single stick.
Yeah. So,
get that.
yeah.
All right, wait. Who won?
We've got
I think
people
I
all
won.
across the board saying,
I had
different versions.
I have one that actually worked.
All right.
Buying used software. Buying software.
Thanks for tuning in
licenses
to
is totally fine.
the Full Nerd.
You're
the-
relying
tune
on
back
used
next
hardwares
week,
now.
for Tech Topics.
Not good. That is
Please rate and review
us.
us anywhere that
Come
you
on.
do your audio stuff.
All right, where the hell is it?
email
That's
us.
right here. We got to go. Go to the comments and say you
Brad
think
won.
I won because I had the only one who followed the rules.
He's gonna say
Actual
like
rules.
months from now that
Check
he
back
won.
next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Send questions and comments to the Full Nerd at PCWorld.com. And also leave reviews on iTunes.com or other places because every time you do, people buy legitimate versions of operating systems. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis,
As the gaming editor, I know which one I'd want to play on.
Elena Yee,
Bye, everyone.
and Adam Patrick Murray is going to hit the off.
I'm sorry we didn't get to Q&A. We will get to it next week, but we have to go. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
I got the glasses.